We are live in at least a dozen people's dining rooms and bedrooms and offices. Hello, hey, everybody, how you doing? You welcome to another employer brand breakdown. I'm joined as always, not as always, as recently, and thank goodness for that, Tracey Parsons, the one and only Tracey Parsons. Today we're going to take a look at Atlassian. Atlassian's a really interesting company. Okay, my LinkedIn just exploded. So I assume we're live. I assume someone's okay. We seem to be going live. Okay. If anybody who's ever done a LinkedIn Live understand it is a bit like typing with boxing gloves on your elbows. It is just clunky. It is complicated. It is messy. But here we are, and we're thrilled to be here. So today we're going to talk about Atlassian, which is a really cool a software company based in Australia, but with a very remote, friendly kind of situation. We were very excited to take a look at it. Does that excitement bear out? We'll find out. But first, some housekeeping. We're going to start off with this, the EVP Buyer's Guide, the evpbuyersguide.com. If you want to take a look at companies that offer employer brand building and development services, the spectrum, big companies, little companies, small companies, cool companies, whatever it is, there's a lot of different people who do this. Go download the guide to see what companies in the US there are and what they specialize in. There is an update coming, hopefully end of month. I got 3 or 4 more companies being added to it, and I'm going to add on to that on a semi-regular basis. So take a look at that. It's evpbuyersguide.com. Tracey, what you got going on?
Well, first of all, if any of you or anybody that's listening to this after the fact is going to be at TA Week in San Diego at the end of the month, come find me. We can talk about employer brand. We can talk about recruitment marketing. We can talk about how today is my Kevin Smith day. Like I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm just in a mood today. So, but if you are going to be in San Diego, sunny San Diego, which apparently I like because I actually am operated by the sun. You know, I have solar panels apparently under my very, very weak hair. I love the sun. So I need to go to San Diego. So if you're going to be in San Diego, come peep me and come. I'm not speaking. I'm just going to be wandering around talking to
You're
friends.
easy to pick out.
And
You're not shy. You're not hiding in a corner. You are in the midst.
well, and unlike Wreckfest Nashville, I will not be wearing a tutu. Um, this next couple weeks from now. So you'll find another way to find me. And just if we're not buddies yet on the LinkedIn, if we don't know each other quite yet, just drop me a follow. I'm making a pretty bold product announcement in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. I'm not going to say more,
I
even
could.
though I really want
I
to.
could.
I don't want to say more, but I really want to say more. It's kind of
Yeah.
that thing. But we're not quite ready, but we are going to be making a huge product announcement out of my company in the coming weeks. So give me a follow on LinkedIn and, see what the big hubbub is going to be about.
And I know what the hubbub's going to be about. So worth looking, worth checking out, worth keeping
Yeah.
an eye out. So with that, I'm clicking some buttons and I'm going to start to share a screen and we're going to look at Atlassian. Actually, I want us to go back one page to their corporate site. All right. I think we're sharing. Does it seem like we're sharing? There we go. They were
We are
now
now sharing
sharing
it.
technology. All right. So Atlassian is a good-sized software company, originally based out of Australia, as I mentioned. They make all the software that you don't think about. They make the software that creates and manages IT tickets in massive companies. They do this. They do Trello boards. You might know those companies. They just kind of help manage stuff. It's really interesting software. It's an interesting niche. It's not super sexy. It's not like, hey, it's not all AIs and social medias. It's incredibly functional stuff to help manage teams. And their whole big pitch, as you can see here, is they're helping teams and people collaborate. That is the watchword to be keeping an eye out for this little breakdown. They think about and live a collaborative world really, really well. They really lean into it really, really hard. So this is pretty much where we're going to start. Tracey, anything you want to say before we start jumping into a career site?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always even better if we can get something about careers in the nav, the main nav, the top nav. We had to scroll down to
Oh,
get
it's
to it.
actually, they do have it kind of buried here in the fold down, but there's so
Yeah,
much stuff.
yeah, it's a little overwhelming, right? And I don't know, is careers a resource? Like again, the naming convention
Yeah.
there, what for me was a little. Huh. That's interesting. What a way to call that. But at the same time, I've built enough websites and products to know that sometimes you just can't come up with a
Yeah,
good name.
yeah,
Like sometimes it's just we're going to call it resources and everything's
yeah.
going to live
Because
under there. So
calling it junk drawer, while apt, is not going to be useful.
okay, but see now you want me to. I may have to have a nav called junk
I
drawer now. Like that. Just call
It
it
is
what
what it
it
is.
is. This is where you find the soy
Yeah,
sauce and and the
the
matches
chopsticks and the yeah,
and the
exactly,
toothpick.
exactly.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
junk drawer. I love that idea. Okay, well, so let's take that as an even better if you are working with corporate marketing, encourage them to put a junk drawer in
because
the nav.
everybody
I'm
knows
here
what
for
that
that.
is. That's the thing. Everybody knows.
Right, but here's what's interesting when you were saying that this isn't sexy. It really isn't, but it also is,
Say more about that.
right? And so there is this concept in our space, James, that only the sexy brands do
Yes.
well. Like people that like, right? Look, I would never, there are certain brands that I'm never, ever going to work with, despite how sexy they are, right? I don't want
Yeah.
that. I don't want that. I don't want those problems. I don't want those brands. And just because it's doing something consumer facing or it's doing something that's popular or cool, it doesn't make it a great place
Hmm.
to work. It just means that you are excited to tell your friends that you work at something they've
Yeah.
heard of.
Yeah. There's some headwinds that you get.
That's not a
Yeah,
reason.
there's headwinds you get because you work at a company that your mom or your friends are like, oh wow, that's cool. One, let's be fair, coolness and sexiness, and we can use those terms interchangeably. They are never long lasting. Nothing is ever cool for very long. It has
Correct.
a sell by date printed on the label very clearly, and you
Yes.
can't be cool. You can't
And
live in cool forever.
right. And if that's a reason that you're going to take a job is to be able to explain it to your mom better, you were probably no, I've never heard anybody
No.
say that, right? In fact, if anybody out there can come up with a way for me to explain to my mom what I do, that would be awesome because I was with her a couple weeks ago and she's like, I still don't understand what you do. I was like, and you're not gonna, it is willful not
Yeah.
understanding. But if anybody has a really
Yeah,
easy
there is
way
a
for my
an
boomer
engineer
mother to
told me this
understand,
idea that when
I would
they
love that.
because
So,
the I
by the
because
way,
I've worked at
drop me a DM
oops,
about
sorry,
that.
we got some freezing here. We're catching up. Okay, good. Yeah, there was an engineer once who told me about this idea that for companies that weren't sexy, you always had this extra hurdle of when the person says has to tell their spouse where they think about working, will the spouse go ew or will the spouse go ooh that's cool? And I think that's a interesting question. Is it really going to be challenging? Is it really going to be the thing? I'm not sure. We seem to have lost Tracy.
Oh, am I
Your
not
video's
here?
down, but that's all right. We'll keep this
Oh,
going. I can hear you though.
okay. That's
Okay.
good. I see me. I'm
Well,
right there.
you'll have to catch this up on the recording then for everybody else. Okay, so
Okay.
let's talk about the homepage. Where do you want to start?
Well, so one of the reasons that I want to start on the homepage is um, I really liked the salty language in their values. Like
Yes.
I love a good salty language.
Where was it?
But yeah, so scroll
There it is.
down, there's icons, and they made icons, salty icons, which I loved. Um, but you know, that's I want stories to back it up. So like what really works for me is that they've named something really, really
Hmm.
well. Like don't F the client or the customer and no BS.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, so great. And then they've got some images that show people with, holding a signs, play as a
Yep.
team. I like where they're going with the saltiness because that tells me a little bit that it's an informal workplace and it goes back to that collaborative thing. Like it's not about you, it's about them and it's about us succeeding together. But again, if I'm talking about an even better where are the stories that show me what this
Yeah.
means?
This.
Right? And if what do you
Yeah.
go
This
ahead,
is as
James? I'm
close as
sorry.
you get to that sort of thing. It's a quote from the co-founder and co-CEO, which we all know is nice, but it doesn't carry the same weight as an actual employee who worries about getting fired
Yep.
now and then, saying, hey, we believe that talent exists outside of Silicon Valley. That's as close as you get to any kind of storytelling. It's I'm not sure what this is trying to say. I'm not sure what, just a quote like this is trying to do.
Well, and that's what, like, if you scroll up to the tippy top, um, what was vexing to me was they're weaving salty language throughout this. Like, they've got great swear words. They're showing me they're informal, but that opening paragraph
Yeah.
is just bullshit bingo.
Yeah.
Like, right? So if you're no BS, could we dial back the
Yeah. So
jargon,
let's yeah,
corporateness?
so at Atlassian, our future is rooted in helping teams unleash their potential by building tools that inspire collaboration and facilitate growth. That is copywriting 101. It is it's pleasant, it's nice, but it's not saying, it's not making any word choices that kind of flavor what's going on. Compare that to last week, where the language was so tight and so interesting and so compelling and interesting. This is saying something which I like, but it's doing it in such a dry, clean, corporate way.
And that's what I like. Again, you and I, James, have been doing this type of work for 100 years.
103.
I I have a feeling that what this started out
Mm.
as was really, really catchy and
Yeah.
beautiful. And it made me, so after I read this, I ran out of time to do this, so shame on me. I should have planned my day better. But again, I'm not even
You're not
supposed
even
to be
supposed to
here
be here
today.
today. There was gum in the
I
locks and
mean, it's
everything.
Dante Hicks Day. It's Dante Hicks Day. So it made me want to go to the archive.org Wayback Machine. And if y'all are not familiar with the
So
archive.org
good.
Wayback
So good.
Machine, get yourself familiar with it, because you can go to the Wayback Machine and type in any website and get the history for that website. So I wanted to go back in time and see, when did it flip from the Atlassian that I suggested last week to this
Yeah.
experience? Because the Atlassian that I really fell in love with when we were talking about this last week was not dry. It was very
Mm.
clear who it was. And it was, and at some point, I think there were a series of meetings that made this paragraph what it is
Yeah,
today.
it's so safe. It is
Mhm.
so nice. It is not going to offend
It's lovely.
anybody. And which is funny, because you go down and there's swearing and it's way saltier language, and you're like, okay, this is the thing I want to learn to start with. I mean, look, I've seen a lot of career sites. I'm just glad it doesn't start with jobs or join us or anything boring. It's like, okay, you're giving me a future starts with you. And I like the idea. First off, why future is capitalized in the sentence, not quite clear. That seems like it's look, I assume if it's at this stage, it's intentional, and I can't tell what it's supposed to intend, right? I don't know what it's trying to tell me. I like it.
Yeah.
It's better than the normal. It just, I know that, especially as you go down, you realize what could have been, and it feels like a missed opportunity. It feels like a loss.
Yeah. And I want to go back, because when you were looking at the corporate
Mhm.
site, right, it was very clear on what the products
yeah.
do. All of that is lost here. So it's assuming that the candidate already knows what Atlassian is, and that's totally possible. They may know that. And it's very contrasty with what we said last week about Qualtrics. Like, Qualtrics was very clear about what they do and who they are and what that means. But Atlassian is not telling me that. And if you're trying to sell me on something that isn't particularly, like, quote unquote cool or sexy, tell me why it
Yeah.
is. Tell me how we're going to make work better. I don't know anybody that I talked to that was like, you know what really should be worse work. Right? So if you're going to go out on a limb and say we exist as an organization to make work better, tell me more. And I don't see that. I don't see that. I want to see that.
I read through the site and I was like, I'm going to say something a little mean, and I don't mean it to be mean, but there's this feeling I get out of this, which is it feels like a really good template. It's like a company. It's like a home career page you could copy and paste, tweak a couple of colors, tweak a couple of words, and you're like, that's who we are. There's nothing here that's, until you get deeper into this page, there's nothing that feels specific to the company. And in fact, it wasn't until I watched the video, and I'm not going to play the video because I know it messes up the feed a little bit. The video is a 4-minute long video, and it is interesting in that it is very precise. Every shot is like about 50% longer than you think it should be. It takes a long time. There are periods of time when there's no one talking, and you're like, okay, it's a bit of a Terrence Malick film, right? It's Tree of Life. It's, whatever it is. It takes a while to get there. And I watched the whole thing, and I swear it wasn't until the last 15 seconds that they said anything that I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Everything was exactly what you would expect. Very nice. We're here to help teams collaborate. It's really hard to innovate as we grow, so we think very intentionally about stuff like that. It's pleasant, and it's nice pleasant. It's just not differentiating.
Yeah, I have a slightly different
Please.
take. I did think it was a little
Yeah.
long. I didn't get Terrence Malick, but I definitely saw how he got there. I had a little bit more of a Joker, like the Joaquin Phoenix joke. Like it was a little. There were moments where it felt a little navel
Yeah.
gazing, right? Like a little like. But then again, I am a total sucker for Sydney, Australia. So like I love Sydney, Australia. So I loved all the scenes of the streets, and then so that helped me. Um, and I thought that the words that they were saying, the voiceover of the employees, the stories that they were telling was so much like I wanted to see that, take that, and build little
Yeah.
quote graphics is a carousel to go with that CEO
Yeah.
quote. Like and then draw me down to the video, right? So there are huge opportunities to leverage this good asset. Yes, it is 4 minutes long. You could probably cut it up into little 15-minute or 15-second snackable
Yeah.
pieces and use it across social, which I saw there was nothing going on from a social standpoint with them. That was a little
Yeah.
surprising to me. Um, but I actually liked the video and I thought it was good storytelling. Again, it was a little navel gazing. Like there were moments like, okay, that's a street scene that's gone on a little long. Tell
Yeah.
me more. But I wanted to see. I want to see like if this and this is my advice to anybody listening. If you have one good asset,
No, you don't. You have 5.
you have 60 good
Exactly.
assets.
Exactly.
Right. And you should be taking that one good asset and making it into 60 little
Yeah.
assets.
I will say,
And you can reuse
yeah, and I will say the people they had speaking were legit good on camera. And as of someone who shoots a lot of video of people where they work, I know that it's a treat to see someone who can speak concisely,
Yes.
pithily,
Yes.
make their point in 5 seconds instead of kind of making half a point, telling half a story, and you're like, oh crap, where did that point ever finish? And you have to kind of find it. And these are really great quotes and great recordings
Yes.
of it. It just isn't packaged as well as I would have liked.
Yeah, and that was exactly my take. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for this brand and everybody listening to again, if you have one asset, you have
Yeah.
60. So think wisely and think about how you can reuse it. And as somebody who, and I know James, you're the same way, like I don't very rarely recycle a talk. Like when I go give a conference session, it's a new piece of
Yep.
content. And I know you do the same thing. And there's a lot of times that it's the same content. But the reason that people use the same content is that nobody
No.
remembers what you said last time. Like there's no way I could give the same talk 16 different times. The problem that I experience is that I get bored with it. So as an employer brand person, you might like, oh my God, I've seen that damn video 672
Yep.
times. I was part of editing it and putting it together. I do not certainly want to cut it apart into 60 different pieces. And everybody's seen it already. Nobody
No.
has seen it. Go into your life as this is the first time somebody's going to experience your brand.
Tracey, quick show of hands. How many people here have launched a website and the day before they launch the website, they're like, I am so sick of this website. Can we redo it? Where you've had that thought where you're like, I am so sick of it. And you're like, you have to remind yourself it's brand new to 99.99999% of the world. You're the only one who's sick of it. So you got to put it out and you got to let it do what it's got to do.
Yeah. And one more thing about the video, when you're talking about the speakers, I felt the passion.
Yes.
Like that's what I
Yes.
loved.
The people
and there's
really
a lot
worked.
of dispassionate things. Yes. Like the site was generally dispassionate. I don't mean that to be mean. And let's also be like, let's take one step back and realize that you and I are spending 30 minutes for the last 2 Fridays and an hour total probably reviewing these brands that have spent months to build this. That job seekers are going to spend
2 seconds.
160 seconds on max, right? So like I get that what we're saying might feel really it's not designed to be tacky, but the reality is we're all trying to build something better and bigger. And we have to remember that our candidates are not spending a ton of time on our career site. So we need to make the most of that time.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Let's look at some of these quotes because I think it's interesting. First off, visually, they've got this. The color scheme doesn't make any sense to me. It seems to change for everybody, but I like this black and white person interesting
Yeah.
cutout layout shaped backdrop. All of them have
Yes.
this one or two tiny little hand drawn quirks to it. I like visually what's happening here. I like that the quotes are from all over the world in lots of different locations, lots of different roles. And the quotes themselves are actually pretty good. What are they
Yeah.
doing way down here?
Right. And I sometimes I think about stacked websites like this, like most websites are
Yeah,
stacked websites, right? Like, and you tease the content to go deeper. You tease the content to go deeper. And when I think about constructing a career website, I have to think about what is going to be most important to the
yep.
candidate and then what is going to help convert them. And so I look at when you're structuring a website is how you would write a blog post
Mm-hmm.
or a book. The
Hook them.
first paragraph has to be good enough to get them to the second
Exactly.
paragraph. The second, like, and so as you're thinking about laying out your career site, think about that. And I love that the last 2 weeks we've seen, first one, hero, little bit of information, get to
Yep.
jobs because that's what
Yeah,
they want to see.
I assume your audience is bifurcated 50-50. 50% just want to see that job. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They've been there 3 times before. It's time to go look for that job. But there's a huge audience who says, I need to browse. I need to scan. I need to find. I need to
Take a
feed
shot.
myself. And it is the hardest thing in the world to develop a product that serves two very disparate audiences. And that's why that top header hero space is so critical to say, make it very easy for someone to browse or search or whatever that action you need them to take. But at the same time, don't ignore the browsers. Give them a reason to continue scrolling down. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Every section should be an opportunity to sell the section above.
I was surprised that a company that talks so much about remote work and work anywhere, and when you look at the job postings, they talk about you can be anywhere. How many times they listed locations? That
Yes.
felt like they were undercutting their own message. I mean, because I don't know enough about Atlassian to say what their policies internally are, but they seem to be very remote first, not remote adjacent, not remote okay, but remote first. But they keep harping on locations, and it makes me go, like, if we look at a job, you will say, hey, the job is listed by city. Hey, this job is in Austin, except the job is remote. And then it'll say, it would be helpful if you were in one of these two time zones because that's generally where stuff is. Okay, is the job remote? Is the job in Austin? Or is the job a time zone? I'm confused. And that is the first two lines of a job posting.
Yeah, and I felt that as well. But one of the things that I kept coming back to, like as a business owner that has a lot of, that I have teammates in different time zones, and a lot of times they're
Yeah,
traveling to different parts of the world. Like I think that there's a couple things happening there, and I'm not really sure what it is, and it's not really clear. So I'm
that's the
gonna guess,
problem. Yeah.
right? That's the problem. So I'm wondering if there are legalities that,
Yep.
right, we recruit from this, and this is how we do this, and policies that support that. But the other thing is, I have to wonder if it's a systems issue because
There it is.
a lot of our systems are like 30 years old, 20 years old. They require a
Yep.
location. And if you don't have locations, then what do you put in? And then that's a required field. And we have to have a
And it sorts
location.
by.
And then it can't go to Indeed and it can't go here. Like I, I feel like where we are going as a future of work is not supported by the
Correct.
systems that we are
Yes.
working in.
100% agree.
And I wrote a LinkedIn about this, and I'm absolutely adamant that if we are still working on legacy 2001 code,
Mm-hmm.
which many of your systems are, we're not going to get there.
Yeah.
So we've got to demand more from our service, from our tech providers.
100% agree. 100% agree. Let's kind of.
But I do want to call
Please.
out though one
Yeah.
thing on this job description issue.
Yep.
Go to a job description.
Okay, let's go find a job.
This is when I'm going to go celebrate them big time.
Let's do. No, not this one. See, they all list locations. So let's do senior intelligence engineer in Austin or remote.
Okay. Scroll down. Just a bit. Compensation.
Yeah.
Guess what? Can we all just give mad snaps to Atlassian
Totally.
for sharing compensation? And the reason that I want to really call this out, and say, holy shit, thank you so much, is our firm has been doing research called Voice of the Candidate for the past 2.5 years. And Voice of the Candidate is when we literally listen to the millions of conversations happening on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, blogs, forums, articles, anything that happens that people are talking about looking for a job. The number one thing that they want, the only thing that they want us to start doing is just tell us how it's going to be compensated. And I want to give mad snaps to Atlassian. And they've even banded it. Like it's very thoughtful.
I would have said it's a little confusing. I highlighted it because I was like, I'm not sure which zone is which. And I feel like you've now given me a project or a puzzle I have to figure out on my own to say what I should expect.
Fair.
That said, I agree 100% that compensation it is the most important piece of information a candidate can get, because it's the only piece of information a candidate can get that a candidate can believe to be accurate to 100%. If they say the job pays $100,000 and you show up and they say it's really $90,000, that's felony fraud. That's real simple. People go to jail for stuff like that. If they say it's
yeah,
exactly. If you say it's a really innovative company and you show up and it's not that innovative, and they say, well, our definition of innovation is, that's just all soft, fluffy career site language. This is the only thing a candidate can believe. And companies who are good at posting that information level up their credibility across the board. And and I'm not being pejorative to recruiters, but understand that to the rest of the world, recruiters look like used car salesmen. Will say, what'll it take to get you into this job? What's it going to do to, like, we all, quote unquote, know that recruiters will say anything to get you into the interview. It's not 100%. That's not true at all. But still, to a candidate, that's what it feels like. This is real information you can bank on, literally. And that showing it shows that you are willing to open the doors a bit and show what's really going on. So it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely leveling up transparency. And yes, it is confusing. But one of the things that I automatically assumed without doing any research at all is that that's based on my location. Yes. So if I live in a very expensive location, I get paid more, right? So I thought that it was really a thoughtful approach. And the other thing, like talking about the transparency, that builds your brand, right? Like if you say you're transparent and then you're actually transparent, guess what? They're going to start trusting you.
And later down the road, you say you're also committed to DEI. I'm inherently more likely to believe those claims because you made a claim and you proved it here. Therefore, you're the kind of company that keeps its word. This is not isolated incidents. These are a large tapestry. And if it's true here, it's going to be true more likely across the board.
Yep. So which brings me to one of my next points. So if you go back to the careers homepage, again, there's a couple things that happened when I was reviewing this that was like, I got golden retriever head. I was like, huh?
Where are we looking?
Scroll down to diversity.
Okay.
Okay. So they're talking about diversity. When you click that button, it goes to their sustainability report, and you have to be smart enough to click on the people button next to planet above there. So that's an even better if. So I love that they're talking about how they're accomplishing their goals, because if you go back to that page with the planet and the people, they're actually telling you specifically how and where they fell short. Which I thought, what a rare occurrence for a brand to say, okay, we're accountable. Like that is proving to me that they are accountable. Right? We fell short in these areas.
Meaning they didn't treat this section as a big old press release to pat themselves on the back and say, aren't we wonderful?
Correct.
They're actually trying to. And look, there is a level of, what's the word I want to look for? Not accountability, but there's a level of just realism that says, look, we're not just saying these things because it's going to help us sell software. This is the world we envision. Anybody can work anywhere they want to work. People should be able to work together better. People should be able to, it's a very, I'm missing a word. It's a simple word. Like it's like escaped my brain, but it just feels real. And it's further evidence that this is what they're doing. This is what I'm talking about. To have such a soft top of the homepage, to give me such bland copy, to say it's like walking into a restaurant that looks like a Burger King, but it turns out they're a 4-star restaurant. I don't get that.
Huh?
It boggles the mind. Now maybe there's a little intentionality that says we don't want 1 million and everybody to apply. We talked about that last week about it's too good to be true and suddenly everybody wants to apply. There's value in hiding some of the light under a bushel, but to not put some of it up front, that to me kills me. That just makes me go. It just makes my heart hurt.
Well, and if it is intentional, James, why aren't we seeing a shit ton more screen out
Yep.
content? Right? Because after reading the homepage,
Yep.
I don't know who doesn't.
Exactly. It's further, everything is wonderful. That's why I kind of had that template reaction. It feels like every company that wants to be
Yeah.
seen as positive, copy, paste it, the design level, the treatments, the colors. It feels very kind of generic corporate, and it's not a generic corporation.
Well, and what was interesting though is that if this is a template, it's a fucking
It
good
is a
template
really good one.
because right, because they did a lot of things that I really, really like. Like they've got benefit information for every single
Yep.
location. What? Come on. They didn't just go, here are our benefits. Right? And they did that, but they were like, here are the benefits specifically for India, the
Yes.
US, the Australia, for every market. Like that created so much joy for me that if this is where we're starting at such a beautiful place of transparency and information. Now it's time to take all of that and
Yes.
Atlassian it. Like, tell me what makes you unique. Tell me the real story of what it's like to work here because it's obvious that you like to take care of your employees. Right? That's very
Yep.
clear to me. And I love that they went again, if we're talking about a template, if you go back a page, they say, we are going to break down our teams, what our teams do. And when I saw that on the homepage, I can't remember
Yeah.
where it was. I was like, ooh, what a great opportunity. And it made me want to
Yeah.
click it. Like, I want to click this. And I got here and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, right? What is engineering to put some of those quotes on these
Yeah.
pages? Give me a video of a hiring manager. Give me a video of the leader of that. Give me a video of the employee in that group and talk about what the work that they do.
This is making me think of something. I think we need to kind of wrap this up because we're done 33 minutes here, and this is really good stuff. I think everybody.
shoot.
No, this is great stuff. I love doing this. You and I could do this all day. But I think there's something interesting that now that I think about the video and the things they said, there's this kind of platonic ideal of collaboration requires clear, precise, almost pristine communication, and that pristineness obviates emotion and humanity. It's got to be precise. It's not like two lawyers talking to each other, though that is a kind of precision of language. This is more like we're getting rid of anything that might be confusing because you were born in Japan or you were born in Ethiopia or you were born in Netherlands. We're getting rid of anything cultural, any kind of idioms. We're getting rid of anything that smacks of location or regional or specificity. The language is so clean now. It's too clean. And I think that's what we're reacting to now that I'm thinking about it. We're reacting to this. They're trying so hard to be good communicators, and I respect that. It misses the choice that people make to say it's an emotional choice to choose where you work.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I do one last thing before we stop? Okay. I got really excited, similar to the teams, over the candidate resources opportunity. I'm like, oh,
where are we going?
On the front page, it's something I might have been on the mobile when I was looking at the mobile, but they were like talking about candidate resources and interview tips and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, so exciting. And then I get here and it just wants me to sign up for something. Right. It'd be even better if you had some teaser content on this page of like what you would get from signing up to make me want to sign up. So that was like, I love all the things that they're doing, and it's entirely possible, James, that this is a work in progress. Right. And if it is, holy shit, you're on the right track.
Exactly. You've got amazing raw materials. It's just a matter of how do you array them? How do you align them? How do you position them so that they tell the story you want? I want to remind everybody, I didn't talk about this at the beginning. We're on the outside looking in, just like every candidate is. We do not know what's going on inside. I have a friend or two who works there. Hey, if you're, hi. But we don't know. And so what we're doing is acting like candidates and trying to figure out what is the impression all this stuff is supposed to mean. So that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Someone asked me on LinkedIn, he goes, "Oh, it's a really good job. You're reviewing these employer brands." And I'm like, we can't. Employer brands are not usually public. What we're reviewing is how well are they telling a compelling, interesting story for us to kind of get a sense of, oh, I can suggest, or I can presume what I think the brand might be, because that's all a candidate can get.
Yeah. Good reminder.
All right. Everybody, thanks so much for hanging in with us. That's the problem with Tracey and I. We're good at this. We like talking. We get excited. And I really get excited when she says stuff, and she seems to be responding to some of the stuff I say. So yeah, I think 20 minutes is asking too much for us. So that's just life. That's how it is. So Tracey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for suggesting Atlassian. It wasn't a company I had considered putting on this program, but this is a great example of a career site and an employer brand.
Absolutely. And I would love to do this again. So let's figure out
We'll
schedules.
figure it out.
And hey, if you're listening and you want us to review an employer brands,
what a great idea.
Let us know. I would love, give it to us.
Absolutely.
And don't be afraid, because 2024 is about fearlessness, peeps. Don't be afraid.
It's about making change happen. It's about doing it differently, because that's the only way we get better.
That's
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. As always, I'll put this on YouTube in a day or two. It's on the same playlist as all the rest of them. Enjoy it. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next week one way or another. Bye.